AskReddit by HVMMM. If someone from 2000 were to time travel to present day 2024, what would shock them the most? Probably the time travel. The hypocrisy. I feel the people who would have a unique insight to this are folks coming out of prison after serving long, 10+ year sentences. I once heard one ex-prisoner say he noticed how angry everyone is. Another ex-prisoner said he noticed that no one noticed him, that is, everyone is so busy looking at their phone that they don't look up. The culture shock must be so much more jarring for them because they went from one time period to another with nothing in between. When you grow old, you see the world change around you slowly. It's a progression. From being inside of prison for a decade or more, not seeing the outside world change in front of you, to then just being thrown out into it is a real trial by fire. How much phones have progressed and how much we use them in everyday life. All software and electronics really. I mean, in 2000 Windows 98 was the up-to-date computing experience. The hoo-ha to get on a plane. I remember being late for an international flight in Holland in 2000 and was able to run through airport and hop on with about 5 minutes before departure. Airport staff were great. A few years later and you can't board if you're less than 40 minutes before departure. You have to flash your hoo-ha to get on a plane? Man, times really have changed. Wait, Apple is actually one of the biggest companies in the world? For a while I thought that they were going under. Oh, the pretty looking dumbed down computers they have in elementary schools. They'll never make something the average person becomes attached to. The Simpsons, Family Guy and South Park are still producing new episodes. You forgot SpongeBob. Phones and obsession with social media. Definitely cell phones. So much has changed. I worked at a electronics store in 90s and you had to have a lot of extra money for a car phone, plus the first plans billed quite a bit for every minute. Now you can carry so much information in your pocket I would have never believed it then. The fact there are now almost a 1000 Pokémon compared to the 151 back in the day. Also smartphones. There's only 151 in my heart. That The Matrix was right and 1999 was the peak for us. Morpheus was right. We still don't know what the One Piece is. We do know that Naruto became Hokage though. The overall cultural shift of the last 20 years. The extreme opinions and cult-like mentality politics. The very us vs them mentality that seems to have settled over everything. Things are just more volatile than they were 20 years ago. Edit, typo. I don't disagree, but Bush v Gore was pretty polarizing at the time. You might enjoy Ryan George, https://www.youtube.com/comrade Ryan George _s. The Future is Dumb series of videos on YouTube, where a time traveler from the 90s reports on events in the 2010s and 2020s. It's pretty funny, and makes a lot of good points about how much things have changed. Or, watching Ryan George videos is tight. How many freedoms and civil rights we lost due to national security. I really miss being able to meet someone at the gate in the airport to welcome them home, or see them off at the gate. Airports used to be so much more fun. Probably would trip out that we have to take our shoes and belts off and go through a weird machine now that takes a picture of us naked even with our clothes on. No Twin Towers. So as someone that was way too young to remember before the towers fell, I'd always kinda wondered, did they always have a high level of significance in a sculpture? Like, completely ignoring what happened, from an ignorant point of view they are just regular skyscrapers that look identical. Did the average person know the Twin Towers by name and significance outside of New York? Especially before the first bombing? I'm really curious. That Chandler is dead. How dumb we've become. Even with all the knowledge of humanity accessible in our pockets. LGBT plus rights and societal acceptance. It changed fast. In 2000, the Defense of Marriage Act had just been signed 4 years before. LGBT was mostly closeted or played as a joke in society and media, outside of a few areas. Related to this, the absence of homophobic slurs in everyday conversations. The F word was thrown around everywhere by straight men in the 2000s. I don't think kids today can even imagine how ingrained this was. How poorly people are paid in comparison to the cost of housing and basic necessities. I think people would be shocked by the amount of homeless people in Toronto, Canada. People would be shocked about how much that city has declined. The house I was renting in 2000 was a massive 2-bedroom with a study, big yard, prime location, garage. It cost me $200 a week and I was 19 years old and worked maybe 16 hours a week. I'm now 42 and working full time and I couldn't afford it now. Guessing it would easily be $7,800 a week now. The near total extinction of video stores. How integral phones and internet have become. Can't live without them these days. I can tell you right now, if a teacher was thrown into the future, they would immediately see that there are calculators in your pocket. There were calculator watches in the 80s. It's still important to know how the math works. Subscriptions. How bad social media turned out. Social media wasn't even a thing in 2000. Trump. First black president too. Netflix and streaming video, replacing those Blockbuster and video stores where you used to go and rent a VCR. Remember that?